when I say things happen for a reason, I think that's a testament to that saying. And so really I went from, I'm going to be a broker, learn the world commercial real estate to here's this opportunity to learn under mentors with a ton of experience. I could leverage their expertise, leverage their knowledge, and just learn.
This is your daily real estate syndication show. I'm your host, Whitney Sewell. Our guest today is Nick Elder. He's investor relations officer at Ironton Capital. Ironton Capital raised $30 million in the second half of 2022, on track to raise $50 million in 2023. And he's going to dive into how they have done that so successfully and what that looks like. If you're a passive investor, you're going to want to know, right? And how they've done that. And because it's going to benefit you, I think, as well. But also, if you're an operator or learning this business, either way, this is important. This is important. And I mentioned how I don't feel like at LifeBridge, we've focused enough on this. We've tried to do what he has said or what Ironton has done, but we're working on it. Anyway, he's a co-founder at Trinity Peak Partners, background in pharmaceutical sales. And you're going to hear about that transition. We've had a number of guests who have transitioned from pharmaceutical sales to investor relations. And it's interesting how I've seen different people do that, just like Nick has done. You're going to learn from him today. I get questions all the time about how we raise money and how we started to raise money quickly and at a large scale. Well, our guest today has done just that, 50 million to say the least, in 1 year. And we're going to talk about how he has done that. What has led to that? What does that relationship with investors look like? From what it sounds like, I think they're doing this well, probably a lot better than us. And I want to learn from him today. I want our listeners to learn as well. And I want them passive investors to learn also how they do this, how he does this. So Nick, welcome to the show. Honored to have you on.
Great to be here, Whitney. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I know. Great to have you. I know you transitioned from a pretty high salaried position, right, into this game of real estate, right? Why in the world would you do that, right? So give us a little of that background and let's talk through that transition because you did it and you did it successfully. And I know there's a number of things there that can help our listeners as well.
Yeah. So Whitney, just over a year ago, about a year and a couple of months, I was laid off from my pharmaceutical sales job. And for anybody that might be listening that's been in that career, layoffs are not an uncommon thing. It happens quite a bit. And, from being in a over six-figure paying position, you can imagine it'd be pretty difficult to willingly leave a position like that to pursue something that's more uncertain. And so I think if I weren't forced into that situation, I'd always kind of had this fantasy and idea in my head that I'm going to just gracefully leave the world of pharmaceutical sales, transition seamlessly into a career of real estate. And I would not skip a beat as far as any income loss, et cetera, et cetera. And so it was definitely not as graceful of a transition, no doubt. But, in my mindset, I knew that I had to get into real estate if I wanted to really pursue this as a career path, scale, and be as successful as I wanted to be. I was going to have to touch real estate every single day, 9 to 5, 9 to 8, and focus solely on it. And so really it started with just a forceful transition into
What a blessing to get booted out, right?
that's what I tell people all the time. I've got friends in pharma and they're just scrambling to get another pharma position, right? But I was booted out forcefully, and I look back on it now, and it's like I couldn't have asked for a better thing to happen.
So was that a time of panic or did you already have a plan or what did that look like right there?
My one now business partner at Trinity Peak Partners, he was my boss at that company, and we were sitting in the car together, and we were always just talking like, we want to be in real estate. I don't want to be doing this right now. So it was kind of like one of those things where my mindset had already shifted before it happened. I knew I was probably going to at least quit in the next year. It just so happened that life had a plan for me to leave a year prior. And so I think I was just already in that mindset. And so the transition, like the day I got laid off, it was kind of like a breath of fresh air, despite the uncertainty that, I knew was on the horizon.
Nice. So what happened next? How did you get into the real estate business? What was the next few steps you took that were looking back, now were crucial to being successful quickly?
Yeah. So I kind of had already started investing in real estate in Denver. I was, just house hacking, buying some single family properties. And so that was basically what I was doing. in my prior W-2 job career. I was focusing on that. So I was kind of getting my feet wet a little bit. I was learning about the world of multifamily, but I really didn't have the bandwidth to take the full leap into syndicating properties just because of my day job at the time. And so from there, I got forcefully laid off. I went and I said, I'm going to go become a commercial real estate broker. I know some people in the business. I thought I'd just kind of cut my teeth in the commercial real estate world. I knew some folks. I could maybe get into a brokerage and I learned, the path of multifamily that way. So I went and got my broker's license, and about 2 months after being laid off, a connection of mine who reached out to me. This is a gentleman that I connected with about 3 years ago. He was a general partner at Ironton Capital, and he reached out to me and said, "Hey, we're swamped. We need help with on the investor relations side. We need help raising capital. Would you be interested?" And so my entire plan went from I'm going to be a commercial broker to okay, I'm going to get into the world of private equity and just start raising capital right away. That's what I really wanted to do. And, when I say things happen for a reason, I think that's a testament to that saying. And so really I went from, I'm going to be a broker, learn the world of commercial real estate to here's this opportunity to learn under mentors with a ton of experience. I can leverage their expertise, leverage their knowledge and just learn as much as I can in a short period of time. And if I do that, I think in a year, I'll be so much further ahead than I could have originally anticipated. And so that's what really led me into where I'm at right now.
Yeah, that's awesome. Speak again to like, how were you connected to them to even know that, hey, they reached out to Nick, they know Nick and they would even offer him a position to do this?
Yeah. So this gentleman 3 years ago, he's got the Denver Real Estate Investment Podcast. So he's pretty well known in the Colorado real estate market. He does a lot of education with investors. He produces a lot of content. He has got a very strong marketing background, and that was his role that he took on at Ironton Capital. I had connected with him 3 years ago. I wanted to have, my portfolio analyzed. And just throughout that process, we, kind of casually stayed connected. And then I had reached out to him again to see if, he knew some folks from a brokerage standpoint, commercial real estate. I had reached out to him to potentially try and introduce me to some people. And he's like, this is when the market was turning a little bit. And he's like, you don't want to do that. Just trust me, develop a business plan. But I think this is something that you really want to do because I know you're looking to get into the syndication world, into the private equity world. We have this opening. So it really just kind of was, a 3-year process of staying connected with this individual. And then, here we are at year 3, and just the right opportunity hit at the right time with him. And, I was the one that came to mind, and so
Yeah,
I'm grateful for that, for
that's
that
awesome. It speaks
situation.
to being willing to step out there, meet people, right, and then stay in touch, right?
Yeah.
Just those little touches with people, whether it's actually having coffee together, whether it's phone call sometimes, or just an email, whatever it may be. Staying top of mind benefited you in a big way, right, in that moment.
Yeah, Whitney, you're spot on. You get it. You've been in this business for a while. Relationships are everything. I'm always open to a conversation with somebody, getting coffee with somebody. You never know who can connect who. You never know, who they are and what they have. And so I'm just a big fan of like, put yourself out there, get uncomfortable, meet as many people as you can, because it could lead to something and you have to be open-minded to that possibility.
Yeah, so this group, it sounds like, they pretty much became an instant mentor, right?
Yeah.
In this space. Speak or anybody else that were mentors, in the past few years, and just learning this business or anybody else like that's helped you to get ahead faster, or is it specifically within this group?
Specifically within this group, truth be told, I looked into doing one of those paid mentorship programs. I'm more a fan of networking and finding a mentor, bringing value to that person, and just it being more of an organic process versus a paid process. And so I had zero mentorship really up until I joined this group. And I think that's been one of the biggest contributors of my short-term success so far.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
incredible, that it worked out for you like that. So we talk often, on the show about mentors and finding mentors. People don't wanna go spend, 25, 30, 50, and, 1,000, and there's, some mentors are even, 75 to 100,000. And there's times it could be worth it, right? Most
Yeah.
can't afford that are trying to get into the business, but there are times it's even worth it.
Really.
My mentor, I think when I signed up years ago, was like 12,500. I joke about it often because even at the time, hey, we didn't have 12,500 to spend on mentorship. And we were like, wait a minute, should we do this? Or are we just
Yeah.
going to lose our money, And
Yeah.
looking back, he's charging 75 to 100,000 now. And if I knew then what I know now, I couldn't have afforded it. But if I could have, I would have paid for it. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there was so
Absolutely.
much benefit there. However, I think a great way to do it is exactly what you did. I mean, I
Yeah.
think I tell people all the time, find somebody that you want to be like 10 years from now, right? And go add
Exactly.
value to them, right? Or go get connected somehow and work for them. I even tell, hey, if you can afford to work for them for free, even part-time while you're at your W-2, like do it. You're going to
Yeah.
build connections and you're making money by doing that. Like 5 years from now, you're making so much more money. You can't see it right now, right? And people say, "Oh, I'm not going to work for free." I'm like, you haven't added any value to this person yet, So anyway, I love how you did that, Nick, and you made that connection, and now, man, it's paying, many times, right, to you because you made that connection. You added value to this person. Speak to how you added value to them, or maybe how you're adding value to them now.
Yeah. I think raising the capital and just being the client facing or the investor facing person for the funds that we're running and launching. And I love what I do. I'm passionate about it. A lot of times it doesn't feel like work. I kind of like pinch myself just to say like, hey, I get to go play golf with investors. I get to go and just get coffee on a random Wednesday afternoon. It's something I truly enjoy. And I just think that I'm bringing a lot of value by being that person that is willing to just talk to investors all the time, educate investors, educate them on our funds, educate them on other things just in real estate. And just by being that person, I can take a lot of the work off of that person, that
Yeah,
mentor plate, and so that he can continue to he's sold 2 companies at this time. He started his third being Ironton Capital, and he has a lot of fun in life. I mean, he's skiing, he's running marathons, and he deserves to, right? And for him to know that he can have somebody who can, talk with investors, educate investors, while he gets to continue to enjoy his life, I think it's a huge value that I
yeah,
can bring.
no doubt about it.
Yeah.
A huge value.
Yeah.
It is such a big value. I've experienced it myself from his side, having
Yep.
somebody on the team now that can do those things that I can trust, right? It turns
Yep.
me loose to go like see bigger pictures, right? I mean, like, and have time to think and to strategize and to work on the business in ways that I can't do if I'm having to take 10 calls a day.
Yeah.
Right,
Exactly.
it's very valuable, right? We want to add that value to investors, but it's something that as we've scaled, I personally can't do it all, right?
No,
And
of
so
course. Yeah.
and do it well. But one thing I know you claim, because of your all's education strategies, right? You all it's enabled you all to raise over $50 million over the last year or in 1 year. And I want to dive into that. How do you all do that? How do you all educate investors so well? What's the strategy there? Because again, questions all the time. How do you raise more money, right? How do you all do this, Whitney? And I think we do some educational stuff, but probably not as well as you all do. So I would love to hear how you all do that.
Yeah. We do a lot of webinars. We do a lot of email campaigns, but the webinars that we do is really what drives traffic. And they're educational webinars. They're not, like pitching a deal type of webinar. We'll educate investors on various investing strategies they can employ with a self-directed IRA. There's a lot of people that they've got solo 401ks or old employer 401ks, and we're educating them on the wealth accumulation that they can employ with a traditional self-directed IRA or a Roth self-directed IRA. And one of the webinars we brought on a CPA that could talk to the tax strategies of doing such. And so we're really just providing an education from that standpoint. And then I think another avatar of an investor that we have at Ironton Capital are investors that have bought property in the last 15 to 20 years. They're free and clear. And the Denver market is really turning to be unprofitable to buy single family rentals. And so we're really focused on, working with our investors or investors that fit that avatar, running financial models on their portfolios and showing them different ways they can invest with us, perhaps by selling a property, investing in our depreciation class shares in our fund, and utilizing that depreciation to offset the capital gains. And so there's very different things that we're doing. Obviously, it's always good to have your CPA involved in conversations such as that. But I think we're providing a lot of value to these investors for situations that are very relatable to them and situations that they're facing right now. So the webinars is what really drive the capital that we can raise for our funds. And so I attribute like a lot of that $50 million in 1 year, a lot of that success to to that education that we're doing for them.
Yeah. Yeah, is that mostly I know you mentioned the investing strategies, using IRA, CPA, like, those are great, right? And we get questions about that all the time as well from
Yep.
investors and trying to find them answers, right? And are you all continually bringing experts in like that? Is it mostly you all speaking about things? How do you all handle the actual webinar piece themselves?
Yeah. So yeah, sometimes we'll bring in an expert. A lot of times it's us. The reality is we've employed a lot of these strategies and we've talked with the experts.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times, sometimes, those experts might feel like there's a conflict of interest or what have you. So that's why we do a lot of that educating ourselves. And there's a lot of inherent trust that our investors have with our company.
How
So
are
I
you
think,
all getting people to the webinars?
yeah, we've got a big database of investors that have joined our email list or they're in our sphere of of investors, I guess, if you will. So we probably have about maybe like 1,500 people that we're sending email campaigns out to and promoting these webinars to. And so that's really how we're drawing a lot of investors in. So like any webinar, we might have, 100 to 150 people on it. And so there's just, we're able to tap into a lot of people and provide this, valuable content to people that they can relate to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So speak to maybe some even email campaign strategies that you all are using and how that works. Whether it's as soon as
Yeah.
somebody signs up on the website or whether it's getting them to the webinar, how are you all using email campaigns to get people to sign up to invest?
Yeah. So one of the things we just recently did was a 3-day portfolio analysis mastermind. One of our general partners at the fund, he has his own company called Property Llama, where investors can input their properties into a software, and it spits out the cap rate, cash on cash, return on equity. And so we're providing that software to them through this analysis mastermind, and they can look at their numbers and say, "Huh, I should sell this property and trade up. I should keep this property because it's performing very well." And so just through something like that, we're also tying that into passively investing in an Ironton Capital fund. And so we're really just connecting a lot of these different dots. That's an example of one email campaign that we did where we just educated investors on here's how you can optimize your portfolio. And it was just that a whole 3-day educational mastermind that we did with about 400 people.
That's awesome. Love
Yeah.
that. That's incredible. What
Yeah.
CRM are you all using?
We use Active Campaign.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another question I get all the time, is what CRM? And so I've just started asking guests too when they have a focus on marketing like that. I'm like, well, I know you got to be using something, to collect all these emails and reach out to
Yeah.
them. And so Active Campaign is one I've never used personally, but I hear lots of great things about it and know a lot of people that do use it. Do you all use anything in addition to that, or does that do everything you need?
That pretty much does everything we need from a CRM standpoint. It's very user friendly, easy to understand, and it allows us to really, efficiently manage our pipeline.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. What has I guess what's the top way to find investors right now or to meet new investors?
Yeah, I'm at a point where me personally, where I do have first of all, we're getting a lot of referrals just from other investors that are referring investors to us, which is very exciting and just a true testament, I think, to what you're doing as a company, especially when it's family, or friends. And so, me personally, I'm at a point where I think, I'm starting to get my personal brand out there a little bit more, and people are reaching out to me. I'm kind of tapped into, several people that are all about connecting each other with other folks and other investors and other people that can bring value to you. And so, again, just from putting myself out there, trying to build my brand through things like LinkedIn, and then just the company that I'm involved with has really helped, me get introduced to a lot more people. So Obviously we've got the education that we're putting out, but we've got a lot of referrals coming in too, which is just fantastic.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
How do you are you asking for referrals? Like how do you kind of stir that up, right? Get that to happen.
Not really. I guess maybe that's something I haven't quite figured out how to ask yet, Whitney. Is asking for referrals. It's interesting. And it's something I'm probably going to start to do. But I guess I'm, maybe just grateful in the sense that I'm surrounding myself with people who are all about just providing value to others. And one of those, pieces of value is connecting us to somebody else who might be a good candidate or an investor for our company. Right. And so, that's kind of what we've been sort of leaning on, I guess, if you will, in the
Yeah.
last couple of months.
What are some ways that you stand out to investors?
Yeah, I think, the educational thing is one of the big things that we really do. You know, the other thing too is we'll talk to anybody, not anybody, but we're always happy to put anybody in our company in contact with an investor. So if an investor wants to learn more, like say a very experienced investor wants to gain a little bit of insight into maybe the underwriting of one project, we'll schedule a time with them. We'll go through our thought process and answer any questions that they can. So we're an open book. We're very transparent. We're never hiding anything. And, we're very communicative about the updates of our funds and the process. And so I think that's a big thing that really stands out to a lot of people. And investors can really appreciate something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. We experience that internally as
Yeah.
well. And so, Nick, what would you say is your best advice for passive investors right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. My best advice for passive investors right now: get crystal clear on your goals first and foremost. Deals are it's getting harder to pencil out on deals right now. I think in my opinion, if you look at one syndication, maybe it's a value add product. I think it's pretty difficult to, for example, expect cash flow day one on a project. And maybe that wasn't the case many years ago. So be open minded to other solutions that are out there. There's a lot of good debt funds and income funds that if you're looking for cash flow, that could be a good thing to do. And then you could also invest in maybe a growth fund or a syndication that is a value add where you can take on a little bit more risk. So I would just say continue, educate yourself more on what's out there and just have the open mindedness that the deals that didn't work that you were investing in a couple years ago, those ones that did work are not the ones that work today. So just really vet the sponsor, make sure they've got a great track record, and make sure you know who you're investing with.
What would you say is the biggest challenge in your business right now?
Yeah, so great question. For example, our funds are our one growth fund, our national diversified fund. We may leave it open for 5 to 6 months, and so I think the challenge is it, that urgency component of investing, right? If you're investing in an apartment complex, you're doing a single asset syndication, there's a forced urgency. You're going to go under contract to maybe close on this deal in 2 years, or sorry, 2 months. So there's a sense of urgency there. In our fund, we're bringing in maybe anywhere from 8 to 12 investments, and we're continuing to identify them throughout that 5 to 6 month process. So there's usually about 2 or 3 months where it's a little stagnant, and then all the capital comes in at the end, right? So I think the challenge is having that sense of urgency and raising capital for a fund that's maybe open for a 5, 6, maybe even 7 month period.
Hmm. What would you say are some of the most important metrics that you track? That could be personally or
Yeah.
professional, like number of investors you talk to, or that are coming in, or it could be your bench press number. Whatever's most important to you.
Yeah, definitely number of investors. I mean, at the end of the day, like it's a sales game, we take more of a consulting approach, but the more investors that are coming in and that are showing interest, the more capital you're going to be able to raise at the end of the day. So it's a numbers game from that standpoint. A metric that a performance metric that we look at specifically at Ironton Capital, I'm sure you guys too as well, as IRR. IRR is a big thing. And then a lot of our investors are looking at the hold period of our funds too. So we like to see anywhere from 3 to 5 years. We've just been finding that our investors are looking for those two metrics. They want to know how quickly they can, double their wealth or accumulate their wealth and how long that might take. So from an investor's perspective, those are a couple of the metrics that we look at the most when we're sourcing projects for them.
What are some habits you're disciplined about that have produced the highest return for you?
Yeah. Mindset habits. I think a lot starts with, my friend always talks about this too, outside of just the overall syndication process, but how I structure my day. In the morning, I'll work out, I'll have a smoothie, I'll take a cold shower. And then from that point on, like my day is set up with the most amount of energy that I can provide for myself so that I can, educate investors, do outreach to new investors or to current investors. And so when I look back at habits, it's really, it starts with how I start my day. And when I start my day like that, I know that the rest of the day is I'm going to be able to put my best foot forward with our company and what we need to do to be successful.
Yeah, love that. Couldn't agree more. The morning routine is crucial for me as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love the morning time, where the
Yeah.
kids are up and, time to be focused and all those things, the exercise. And then we brought a little one home a few weeks ago and it's just wrecked my morning routine. Right. 'Cause
Yeah. You're
I'm
not
up
getting
a
much
lot later
sleep.
night. Yeah. So, but anyway, I completely agree. I'm trying to get back on track as fast as I can. So, because yeah, it's so important. Yeah. What about how do you like to give back?
So I like to be a mentor to others. I think one thing I've learned about myself is I've seeked out mentorship so much and I've recognized the value of that I at some point, I want to be a mentor to others. I like to teach others. I like to see others grow with what they're doing. So that's what I really like to do to give back. If I can be a resource to other folks, maybe younger than me, maybe even older than me that are trying to get into the business, I want to be able to help them in any way that I can and provide as much advice as I can.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, Nick. I appreciate you diving into how you all are educating investors, how that's helped you all raise a lot of money, right? I mean,
Mhm.
in a short
Yeah.
period of time, I think. Even some of the webinar ideas and things, you all are doing to help your investors. I mean, it's crucial, right, to our business. The investors are our lifeblood, of our business. So it's so important that we're adding value to them. And I just appreciate the focus, that you all have had on that and how you're doing that well. Even your focus to, stand out to your investors in a number of ways.
Mhm.
Nick, how can the listeners get in touch with you and learn more about you?
Yeah, so they can go to my LinkedIn page. You can just search Nick Elder in LinkedIn and, you'll see me pop up. It's Nick Elder Real Estate. I really recommend people get in touch with me there. They can schedule a call with me. We can go through various different investment options, or if you just want to connect and, kind of just talk, that's something I'm open to as well. I always just like talking about the market, talking about life, talking about the opportunities that are out there. They don't have to be tied to any investment opportunity. So if you're interested in a conversation, head there and let's chat.
Thank you for being with us again today. I hope that you have learned a lot from the show. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I hope you're telling your friends about the Real Estate Syndication Show and how they can also build wealth in real estate. You can also go to lifebridgecapital.com and start investing today.